7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 10.
Hello. Back here again, CornerSpeak 360. Now, you might have noticed that you haven't seen me doing any streams for quite a few months, as a matter of fact. Had to take a pause for the cause, but I am back now in effect. And in the coming weeks, you're going to get much more content from my channel and all the other CornerSpeak channels, particularly CornerSpeak News and Views, and also our music channel, CornerSpeak CBC, where we're going to have some one-to-ones, some live stream, short performances, solo artists, emerging artists, and even some small bands. So hang in there, hold tight. The reason you're seeing me today is there's been a particular subject that I'm in an hour considering whether to cover or not to cover on the News and Views podcast or even this reaction channel. Now, you're going to be seeing myself and David Williams holding a politics talk show in the coming weeks where we're going to discuss things that relate to us here in the UK and globally. You know, what is the origins of democracy? What's the alternatives to democracy? Does it actually work in practice? Now, some of that kind of relates to this subject that we're going to be looking at in this particular video. Somebody sent me something in one of the WhatsApp groups, and this is really what inspired me and prompted me to share it with you and touch on this subject that's really probably come into view in most of our day-to-day activities in recent weeks. And like I said, it's been something I didn't want to dive into because it's very sensitive, very touchy, and I'm sure we've all got opinions. And what's particularly struck me is people that I've been watching for years who have fairly clear views and stands on certain, matters. Some of them I share, some of them I find interesting to hear their take on it, but I may have opposing views. This particular subject has turned people completely around. I've seen people go from this side completely to that side, who I would never have imagined, and even, a certain level of rationality leave the room when people have, address this particular subject matter. Anyway, long story short, let's take a look at this video. I'd just like to make one thing quite clear. This video that I'm going to be showing the content is for educational and newsworthy purposes. Just want to make that clear for the for YouTube and the platform itself. I don't want there to be any misunderstandings, and just want to make that point clear. This is very newsworthy material, and showing the content, sharing the content, because I think it has something that touches on all of us in our everyday lives. So without further ado, let us have a look. Give me 1 second to get this up and running. Bear with me here. Alright, here we go.
Hi everyone, welcome to Learning with Leah. Today's video is going to be a bit of a long one, so make sure you listen up. A while ago I made a video of naming flags on a flag filter, and I named the flag from Israel. Smart. And I remember that someone commented on the video and said, no, that's not Israel, that's Palestine. And I was confused because I knew I was correct, but they were upset that I said Israel.
I just want to say, this struck me on how informative this video actually turns out to be. Very.
And I have no idea why, until now. I thought it was really important to figure out how all this really started. And this is what I've learned so far. Believe it or not, this all started with Britain. During the First World War in 1917, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration. It was a promise from Britain to the Jewish people to help them.
Now, sorry to cut in there, folks. This is about where my knowledge, as far as my knowledge reaches back to the history and the origins of this, how this whole thing developed. Well, it goes back, obviously, as we know, probably beyond the biblical era. But as most of our history will take us to the, end of the Second World War and dividing up of the map. That's where my knowledge kind of starts from with this subject. Without further ado, we'll continue.
Establish a national home for them in Palestine. Initially, the Jewish people were only thought to make up 10% of the population in Palestine. But once Britain began to facilitate the immigration of the European Jewish people to Palestine between 1922 and 1935, the Jewish population went from 9% to 27% of the total population. And that's when the Palestinians realized that Britain was not going to be delivering them independence. They were delivering their country to other people. The Palestinians tried to fight back, but they were overpowered. The British forces were too strong, but Britain thought that dividing the land would solve the problem. But remember, the Palestinians were the majority in the country. 250,000 Palestinians were moved by force. Then in 1947, after 30 years of occupation, Britain decided that they no longer wanted to deal with Palestine, and they just left it to the UN. The UN marked off 55% of the country for a Jewish state, but they never exactly explained how it could be a Jewish state, when half of the people in the territory were Palestinian. After that, the Zionists knew they would have a stronger military and decided to take more territory than the UN awarded them. Things continued to get worse for Palestinians, and in 1987, the Palestinian militant group Hamas was founded, which I think personally only happened because they thought that they had no other option but to fight back. And now
at this point, I have to say what the other legacy news stations and other internet channels have probably made clear, well, some of them to an extent, when we reach this particular point in the conversation, shall we say. The group has been prescribed by various countries as a terrorist organization, and I will just let the video roll.
Not me condoning violence from Hamas, but people can only take so much before they're forced to take extreme action. Now Israel is saying that the goal of them bombing Palestine is to limit Hamas's ability to fight, but I no longer believe that this is about Israel defending themselves. It's about wiping out Palestinians because they want to, and because they can. In plain English, this is genocide. The Palestinians use the word Nakba, which means catastrophe, to describe what happened to them in 1948, and 700,000 Palestinians were permanent.
Now that is very interesting, because I've been hearing that word for the last how long now, and just to have a clear definition of it makes a lot of very informative, very educational. Well done.
Displaced, and 500 Palestinian villages were destroyed. To me, it sounds like the Nakba never ended for them. What people need to understand is that human rights do not have boundaries. They do not stop at certain borders. A life is a life regardless of your color or religion. And I won't say race because that is not a real thing. Palestinians are being persecuted. They're taking basic human rights away from them. We should all have a problem with this. They're cutting off water and electricity to innocent children.
There's no house, there's no water, there's no food, there's nothing. Am I going crazy? I don't know. I don't know anymore. Please. Oh my God. We're pleading and we're pleading. Stop this. Where are the people? Oh, we're trying. We don't know what's going to happen anymore.
They're bombing hospitals and schools. Keep in mind, you can't even call this a war when it isn't even a fair fight. Israel has one of the most powerful militaries, and they're intentionally killing innocent people. And none of this is fair. And the last thing I want to say, isn't it interesting that we don't have enough money to fund the things that we desperately need in our country? like feeding children, bettering our educational system, housing the homeless, providing affordable health care, or even paying people a livable wage. Oh, but there's always money to fund violence, right? Shame on the US and all the other countries that are helping to fund this genocide. And if you need violence to enforce your ideas, then your ideas are worthless. How is a child trying to teach adults about humanity? Shouldn't it be the other way around? And I know that seeing so many atrocities makes people lose hope, but we can't. We all have to fight.
Porque creemos en una solución justa.
From the river to the sea.
Because if we don't, what kind of future will all of us kids have? What also needs to be made clear is that standing with Palestinians and condemning what the Israeli government is doing does not mean anti-Semitism. It's anti-Zionism. The Zionist movement is not a Jewish movement. And although, yes, anti-Semitism is real, that does not give the Jews the right to be the oppressor. We want a ceasefire.
It is not the difference of religion which is causing this conflict. The state of Israel does not represent all Jews, and certainly does not represent the Jewish religion. According to Jewish religion, all of this is criminal. All of this is forbidden. It is a true violation of Judaism. And still, those people who choose not to follow Judaism misuse that very same religion, justify all those crimes forbidden in Judaism. The root cause is this criminal occupation which is oppressing an entire people. We have to end this occupation in its entirety. If people will ask me my advice, the leaders of Israel should wake up tomorrow morning and step out of the Knesset and return the land back to indigenous population. I guarantee peace.
Free Palestine!
See, now my view on that, just to say, that was really well put from a Charles-centric perspective, scripted or otherwise. I learned a lot taking that in. I would just say, well, we're all on the same planet, divided up it may be to different segments, just like different cells in all of our anatomies. I believe that some things ultimately have to be shared. So whether we call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, states, partitions, however you want to divide up the cake, the pie, ultimately we're sitting on the one globe, and at some point we have to figure out whether we like or dislike one another, a way to share the space. Might sound impossible. That's the only kind of logical or otherwise conclusion my thinking concludes at. Anyway, to draw to a close, I'd just like to say, look out for CornerSpeak 360. Look out for more posts coming up from the News and Views politics show, going to be hosted by myself and Dave Williams. And then also look out for CornerSpeak CBC, which is the music channel and content that's going to be coming up in the coming weeks. So being out of the mix for a portion of time, I'd say I'm back almost in effect. So be good, be safe, and be creative. CornerSpeak 360. I'm out.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.